We've been hearing a lot of talk in South Africa about how our mobile companies, our big cell phone companies, have gone ex-growth. In other words, they mature in terms of what mobile telephony will contribute to society. So it's kind of like saying the pharma companies were done growing once they'd invented the basic drugs that they had out in the 1950s. Or perhaps that the motor industry was done growing once it had perfected a combustion engine that was more or less reliable. So let's look at some of the technologies that are going to drive this future wave of innovation.
Right, so there's 6.8 billion people on the planet, of which about 4 billion have handsets. A lot of those contractual handset people change their phones every 2 years from an old model like this to a new one like this with a touchscreen. Obviously far more exciting, much sexier model. Now they reckon research has shown that the mobile phone market is growing by about 20% per annum. So you can obviously see that we're growing a lot quicker than we were in the past. But these sexy models, where the high data users are going to come from, people who use Twitter, Facebook, Bloomberg apps, whatever you want to customize your phone to be able to use, these are going to grow from around about 140 million units sold last year to, in a mere 3 years, selling over 500 million of these units. So a lot more of these units are going to be sold, and those are much higher data user models.
Okay, one of the best forms of communication with cell phones is obviously the SMS, short message system. Now this has also been innovated to systems like Mixit, with social networking involved. These seem to have a good multiplier effect because the more people who join, the more accessible it is to people, and the more efficient it is. I mean, the more people that are on there, the more you're going to want to go on yourself. That gives platforms for advertising and again more connectivity and just another extra use for these cell phones.
Not to forget mobile banking. And when I talk mobile banking, I'm not talking about people using the cell phone to do a 300 Rand transfer to their mate for the drinks last night. What I'm talking about is a radio frequency reader in this thing, so that when you go to the checkout till they've done the scanning on their barcode thingamajig, you do the scanning on theirs and the bill gets paid. So goodbye wallet, goodbye credit card, it's entirely secure. That's what I'm talking about in terms of the next generation of e-commerce applications using the cell phone. And we've seen in China, companies like China Mobile, which got 500 million customers, just taken a 20% stake in one of their big banks in order to give effect to this strategy.
Bandwidth is going to become a lot quicker and a lot cheaper, and teledensity, what we call where people have multiple devices. So not only am I going to have a mobile phone, but I'm going to have either a Kindle or an iPad that's an ebook reader, and these are going to be pre-installed with SIM type technology. So what we're going to do is we're going to be able to see much higher network user from individuals simply because there's a higher level of teledensity.
Okay, so the way things are headed, cell phones and these new tablets look like they're going to be the main principle for video streaming. I'm sure you've all heard of YouTube. So a couple of years back when MTN released results, you would have got an email for us. Now you're watching this video on the internet of us, of our analysis. Possibly next day you will download our detailed analysis on your cell phone or your tablet.
Jack Sparrow in jou moeder se huisie.
Jy dink jy's cooler as ek.
Want jy rook Yves Saint Laurent sigarette.
Jy dink jy's cooler as ek.
Want jy het 'n tattoo van 'n slang op jou tette.
Okay, so the average revenue per user in Nigeria is only $12 US, whereas for AT&T in the US it's $100. So the challenge obviously for MTN is to be able to close that gap, and obviously that gap's got a lot of closing to do. But you must also remember the population in Nigeria, we're talking about 155 million odd people out of 1 billion in Africa. And that population is set to double in 40 years. So we're talking of a population in excess of 300 million people over the next few decades in Nigeria, and these people are all completely hyperactive entrepreneurs who want to use their phone a lot more. So obviously the challenge is to get more people on the networks using more of your services over time.
So we've heard about all the fabulous technology, but the question still remains, what is MTN, the company, the share trading in the market today, actually worth? Sits in a band of around 110 to 130 Rand a share. It's been bouncing up and down for the last 6 months. What would you pay for a company that has 130 million customers roughly by the end of this year? Okay, we understand there's some weaknesses. The business in Iran is growing fast, but it's not the best country in the world from a political point of view. Nigeria is fantastic, but it's got a funny currency, and it's got terrible levels of corruption and so on as a nation, notwithstanding all of its expansion potential. In South Africa, they've had their problems. Because of these laws regarding cell phone registration, they've basically seen a collapse in new SIM cards being sold. And we know that there is this slowing down in terms of new customers, and we've got to make this transition to the newer, more bandwidth-intensive users that we've been talking about. But notwithstanding all of these issues, we still think MTN is one of the most attractive investments in the market because it gives you an entree into all of those new technologies that we were talking about a moment ago. And we don't think that at the current share price level that the market, the professional investor market, is giving any credit to all of that growth potential. We think that if you can get stuck in at current levels now, you can own some of the most valuable real estate in terms of that ownership relationship, the billing relationship that MTN will have with its clients. And as we've always said, the only way to make money in the long term in the market, not to mess around day trading, is to get stuck in where human productivity is increasing, where the economic expansion is happening, and where the share of wallet in terms of human spending is increasing, and to invest alongside that long-term growth in order to benefit as the shareholder.